We begin the Gemara today at the bottom of Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis Rami Le Rav Papa Bashmul Rav Yosef. The Gemara here is discussing Rav Yehuda's opinion. Rav Yehuda said a chiddush in the Mishnah that a woman that was captured, even though there could be a big suspicion that someone had a relation with her, so now she becomes puzzled to a kayin and so on. Nevertheless, Rav Yehuda said that no, we still say that the Mishnah's lashon was b'kedusha harei b'kedushasa. She still has her kedusha, and therefore she can marry a kayin. And in the Mishnah, Rav Yehuda said that she gets knas if someone is mezana with her. So the Gemara now asks on this opinion of Rav Yehuda from what Rav Yehuda himself said in a different place. Rami le Rav Papa Bashmuel le Rav Yosef. The Sava Rav Yehuda. Does Rav Yehuda hold b'kedushasa kaima, that a woman that was captured amongst Goyim, she still has the kedusha? How could that be? But Vatanya, we learned in a braisa regarding a woman that sees blood, which becomes a nida. And here we see from Rav Yehuda's opinion later on in this braisa that there's a different. That he says the exact opposite. Vatanya hagiyaris shenizgaira. Hagiyaris, she became a ger, and Vera Saddam, and now she saw blood. Rabbi Yehuda says, when she sees blood, what happens? Daya shaita. It's enough that moment, meaning we say, from that moment going forward, she's going to be tummy. And whatever she touches from that moment going forward will be tummy. What's the chiddush of this? So as Rashi says, usually when it comes to a woman that sees blood, and we don't know exactly when really that blood was there in her body that was dislodged from the source. So therefore we have to be chayshish, we have to be concerned that possibly 24 hours, anything she touched already in that 24-hour period from before she saw this blood should become tummy. Right? And therefore Rashi says that we're geyser, what's the lashon that it says in the Gemara and Nida speaks about this. We're geyser me'eis le'eis, and we're geyser me'pkida le'pkida. Me'eis le'eis means a 24-hour period. Why? Because we're concerned we don't know what happened when she saw the blood, me'pkida le'pkida, from the last time she examined herself to this time when she examined herself. So therefore, the gzeira is that retroactively anything will be tummy. But Rav Yehuda says when it comes to a giyaitis, we can't be geyser for a 24-hour period. Let's say she just became a giyaitis today, and so she was just in the mikveh now. Any blood that she saw from before she was a giyaitis does not make her tummy. Then as a guy, blood does not make her tummy at all. So therefore Rashi says, this whole thing to be geyser retroactively a 24-hour period is a gzeira midrabanan. When I tell you, we don't have to be concerned for this. So regarding this giyaitis, since we're not geyser for a 24-hour period, because that's impossible, she just went to the mikveh now, so therefore, we're not geyser at all. And therefore, from the moment she saw the blood, she'll be tameh, nothing from before then. Rabbi Yossi says, no, harehi kechol anashim, even a giyaitis, when she sees blood, we are metameh her retroactively, like all women. Or metameh me'eis le'eis u'mepkida l'pkida. She'll be tameh from 24-hour period before, and mipkida l'pkida from a previous examination to this time that she examined herself. But Taisva spells out here that this expression of Rabbi Yossi does not mean literally that she'll become tameh from 24 hours before. Because if she was not even a yid from 24 hours before, how are you making her tameh from 24 hours before? But Rabbi Yossi means to say, from that time when she went to the mikveh and she became a yid, she'll be tameh limafreya from that point. Because when she sees blood now, let's say she saw blood now, 5 hours later, it could be the blood was already dislodged from before, from when she went to the mikveh, and she'll be tameh from then. Then, another point that Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi argue about, and this is what's relevant over here for our discussion, from after she becomes a giyaitis, to get married to a yid, she has to wait 3 months. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, this is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. What's the reason for this? Because if she's going to have a child after this marriage, we want to know, is this child from this marriage, or maybe it's from a previous relationship she had before? So in order that it should be clear, the child that's born, if it's from a zera b'kedusha in this marriage with a yid, or a zera shaloi b'kedusha from a relation she had before, so we have to make a break of 3 months. Rabbi Yossi ever allows this giyaitis to go and get married immediately. Eirisin, Isuin, fully married immediately. So what's the Gemara's question? We see here, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that he has the concern that this giyaitis had a relation with someone else before she became a giyaitis. Why? Because she's amongst Goyim, and therefore she's not careful, and she has a relation with all kinds of people. So, and therefore she has to wait. What did we say over here regarding a shvuya, a Jewish woman that's captured amongst Goyim? We're not concerned that because she's amongst Goyim, she had a relationship with these Goyim. We say that no, she's Biktushasa, and she can go and get married to a Kayin, she gets Knas, and so on. Amalei, so the Gemara answers, Giyaris, Ashvuya, Karamis. You're asking me a contradiction of Yehuda's opinion from a Giyaris that's amongst Goyim to a woman that's captured amongst Goyim. It's not the same thing. Giyaris, Leimintra Nafsha, by a Giyaris, because she's not Jewish yet, so she's not careful with herself at that point. She could have had a relationship with anybody. Shvuya, Mintra Nafsha. However, regarding a Jewish woman that's captured amongst Goyim, she's a Jewish woman. She's very careful about who she has a relationship with. So over here, that's the reason why Rabbi Yehuda says that she's kosher to get married to anybody. Verami shvuya ashvuya. There's another contradiction that we have in Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that we can see even regarding a Jewish woman that was captured. The Tanya and Abraisa we learned, and here it brings all the three together as it brought in the Mishnah. Hagiyay daf lamed zayin amar aleph. Hagiyaydes havashvuya vashivcha. So all three that we spoke about, right? Hagiyaydes, a woman that's converted, or she was captured, or shivcha, a maid, sheniftub, shenisgayrub, shenishtachru. They were released, she became a giyaydes, or she was freed. Yisaydes abenois gimel shana v'yayim echad, above the age of 3 years old, tzrichas la'anten gimel chadashim. She has to wait 3 months until she can get married to a yid. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, this is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yosi mate la'ares v'lenasim miyad. Rabbi Yosi says she can go and get married right away. So here in this Braisa, we clearly see the concern we have that this woman had a relation with someone else, and therefore she has to wait 3 months, is regarding a woman that was captured as well. So how could Rabbi Yosi say in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda that is, how could Rabbi Yehuda say in our Mishnah that a woman that's captured is still in her Kedusha, and if someone else would add a relation with her, she gets Knas? Ishtik. When Rabbi Yosef heard this question, he was silent. He didn't have what to answer. Amalei, so he says to the one that asked the question, which was Rav Papa Bashmul, Midishmielach Bahat, did you hear any answer for this? Amalei, so Rav Papa Bashmul answered, yes, Hachi Amar Rav Sheishes, this is what Rav Sheishes said, Shira'ua Shenivala. Over there, the reason Rav Yehuda says she has to wait 3 months is because that was a case when people clearly saw that she had a relation with somebody in captivity. So that's obvious, she has to wait. So he asked him, Ihachi, but if that's the pshat, my time of the Rav Yosi. So how are you going to explain what Rav Yosi said? Rav Yosi says that even after this, she can go and get married to anybody right away, and we're not concerned to see who the child that's born is. If we know for a fact she had a relation with someone else, shouldn't Rav Yosi agree that she has to wait? Amar Rabbe, so Rabbe explains, because Rav Yosi's opinion is, Isha Mizana, a woman that has a relation with somebody outside of marriage, Mishameshes b'moich. She has a relation and she does something with it as a contraceptive that she shouldn't become pregnant. She puts a cloth or something, shaloitis aber, that she should not become pregnant. And therefore, Rabbi Yosi says, could be people know that she had a relation with somebody in her captivity, but we know that she did not come pregnant from that. So now she can get married immediately when she gets released. Says the Gemara, this svara you're saying is not always could not always be applied. Why not? This idea that she does something she should not become pregnant, that could only be true in a case where she's concerned about this, where she expects that she would be released or she's going to get married to a yid, so she's concerned about this. And the Gemara goes through different scenarios here. So bishleima, this would be understood if this is a giyaris. If she's a giyaris, she converts now. So now we can say, even if she has a relation with a guy when she's not a giyaris yet, but she still is careful that she should not become pregnant. Why? Kiven the daita le'giyure, because she has already in mind to become a giyaris, minter nafsha. She's careful not to become pregnant from a guy. Shvuya nami, a woman that's in captivity as well. She has no idea where her people that captured are going to bring her to. They can bring her to a Jewish community and she'll be redeemed and then she'll want to get married. So she has to be careful not to become pregnant with a guy. Shivcha nami, a maid that could also be freed at any time. So it's possible, the Shama Mipimara, she heard from her master. Her master was talking about freeing her. So even if she's still a maid, she has a relation with a guy, but yet because she's aware of the fact that her master wants to free her, so she's careful not to become pregnant. Ella, but then there's a scenario where she becomes freed and it's something which she didn't expect at all. What's that? Yaitze b'shen v'ayin. Halacha is a maid, her master knocked out a tooth or an eye, so that itself frees her. When it happens suddenly. In such a case, what are you going to say? Seemingly, even in this case, Rabbi Yosi would say that if she got freed in this a way that was a surprise for her, still she can immediately get married to whoever she wants. But in such a case, why would she take any steps to prevent pregnancy if she didn't even expect that she would be becoming freed and she would be marrying a Yid? Now if you'll argue and say, who says in such a case Rabbi Yossi Taka holds that she could immediately get married to a Yid? Maybe in such a case he says it's Taka a problem. So if you'll say, Kol memele, any time that something just happens automatically, it happens as a surprise, Lo Yom Rabbi Yossi. Maybe in such a case Rabbi Yossi did not say that she can just immediately go and marry a Yid. But that's not true, because Harei Anusa Mufute, regarding a case of an Anusa Mufute, someone had a relation with this girl against her will or by persuading her, the memele, which is also something that happens as a surprise. Tanya, and we learned in the Braise, Anusa umufute, tzriches lahantin gimel chadoshim, divrei Rabbi Yehuda. If someone had a relation with this girl against her will or with her will, but it's something that happens as a surprise. So Rabbi Yehuda says she had a relation with this man, so now she can't go get married to another man until she waits 3 months. So it should be clear who the child that's born is from. Rabbi Yossi, but Rabbi Yossi says even though she was mezana with someone else, she cannot go get married immediately. So this, if someone has a relation with her against her will, it's definitely something that happens as a surprise. And we can't say that this is something that she takes steps to prevent her pregnancy. And still Rabbi Yossi says it doesn't matter. She can go get married to someone else right away. Why? If we're not going to know who the child is, why wouldn't Rabbi Yossi agree that she has to wait? So therefore Rabbi says that the pshat here is a bit different. Kesubos Rabbi Yossi holds the reason why you don't have to wait is because Isha mizana misapeches kedei sheloi tisaber. Any woman that has a relation with someone out of marriage, whether before, we spoke about all the situations when she was still a guy or she was in captivity, or over here, a Jewish girl, that someone was mizana with her, someone had a relation with her, so she turns over in order that she should not become pregnant. She does things. She still, even though she couldn't prepare a contraceptive, but still she makes an effort to prevent pregnancy. So therefore, even when it happens as a surprise, Rabbi Yossi says we could rely on this, and she could get married immediately to a Yid. Rabbi Yehuda that disagrees with this, what does he say? Even though we do know that a woman tries to prevent pregnancy in such situations, but nevertheless, possibly whatever she did was not necessarily done properly enough, and it still is possible that she will become pregnant from a previous relationship, and therefore we do still have to wait for 3 months.
But everybody holds she can't get married to a kohen.
She can't get married to a kohen. Regarding a giyaris and a shvuya, yeah, for sure. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, depends on the case over here. By a giyaris or a shvuya, depends on the case. Okay, but Rabbi Yehuda, the question is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. According to Rabbi Yehuda, by a shvuya, you could get married to a kohen. Okay, this answer the Gemara over here gives regarding that a woman makes every effort to be misapeches, that she should not become pregnant. So this answers over here the question b'negeh to ananusa and mufute, that in such a case, that even though it's something that happened as a surprise, nevertheless we could rely on this. The question is whether this is also a good answer regarding this woman which is yotze b'shen v'ayin. This woman which is yotze b'shen v'ayin, she had no idea, she had a relation with a guy when she was a maid, not against her will, not as a znus. She had a relation with him, and she did not expect to get freed at all. There should be really no reason why she should be interested in preventing pregnancy. According to Tosfos, the final answer the Gemara gives here does not actually explain that case when she leaves surprisingly because her master knocked out a tooth. And so in that case, Rabbi Yossi would have to agree that she would have to wait 3 months. That's what Tosfos says. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to what it said in the Mishnah, and the Mishnah brought us the pasuk, which is the source of the halacha of kam le'b'derabminei. Whenever there's a chiyuv misa, there's no payment. Shenema, the pasuk was v'lo yiyeh asayin anish anish v'chulu. In a case where a person did not cause a tragedy that nobody died, then you pay. But if somebody died and you chayiv misa, so then you don't pay. That was the source. Frek the Gemara v'ha mahacha nafke. Is this the source for the concept of kam le'b'derabminei? Mahasam nafke. But there's a different pasuk we learned this out from. Kedei rish asay. The Kedei Rishasei means that you have to give someone for his wickedness, you give him Malkus, and Rishas Oi is one singular term, which means you give one punishment and not two. Mishum Rishachas Ata Mechayve V'Yata Mechayve Mishum Shtei Rishiyos. Just one punishment and not two. That's the source for this idea of Kamle B'Derabminei, that you give, once you give the harsher punishment, you don't have to give the lighter punishment as well. And since the Gemara, these two psukim are talking about two different things. Chada b'misa u'mamein. The pasuk the Mishnah quotes, v'lo yiyeh asain, is speaking about a case where a person's chayiv misa, so then he doesn't pay. V'chada b'malkus u'mamein. And the pasuk of Kedei Rishasei is talking about malkus, that once you give someone lashes, that he doesn't have to pay. Two different things. Now, why do I need both? Shouldn't I automatically understand the idea that once you give a harsher punishment, you don't give the lighter punishment of paying money? Says the Gemara Tzricha, you have to teach me both of these things. The Yashmin and Misa Mammon, if we were only speaking about a case where there's a Misa, and then there's a question if you have to pay or not, I would say, Mishum de'ike ibud neshama, because a person is losing his life, that's such a harsh punishment. So here I say, in such a case, that you don't have to pay. Aval malchus mammon, in a case where a person is getting malchus, and then there's a question if he has to pay, the lekib with neshama, the harsher punishment is not a loss of his life. Maybe I would say that this concept does not apply, that you get both. You get lashes and you have to pay as well. In the reverse, I could say, v'iyashmin malchus mammon, if the pasuk would only tell us regarding the case that when you get malchus, that you don't have to pay, I would say the reason is mishum delechame isure, because when you're getting malchus, the issa that you did is not so severe, and therefore you only get malchus, and there's no chiyav misa here. So in such a case, not such a severe isser, I say that the Torah says once you get malchus, the punishment is enough, and there's no reason to pay as well. Avo miso mamein, but in a case where a person is chayiv misa, so obviously this is a much more severe isser. The chamer isure, so it's a much more severe isser. Eimeloi, I would not apply this exemption that once you get misa, you're potter from paying. I should say you have to do both. Tzricha. So therefore, over here, the Torah has to say as well that you'll still be potter of paying. Ula Rab Meir. Now we had the opinion of Rab Meir quoted before as well. The Amar Rab Meir says, Loike u'mishalem, that when it comes to malchus, you actually do get both. You have to the lashes and you have to pay as well. So if so, this pasuk of Kedei Rishasei is not referring to malchus. That pasuk has to be referring to misa, the fact that you get just one punishment. So the question comes back, Tarti Lamali. What do I need the two psukim for to teach me that when there's misa, that there's no mammon? That says the Gemara, Chada b'misa mammon. One pasuk is coming to say that when there's misa, that there's no payment. V'chada b'misa malchus. And the other is in a case where there's misa and malchus, that you don't give the two punishments of misa and malchus as well. And again, the Gemara explains why it's necessary to explain both of these. I have to tell you both of these halachas, that once there's misa, that there's both no payment, and that there's no malchus in the place of misa, the yashmin and misa mammon. If the Torah would only tell me this halacha regarding misa and money, that you don't pay when there's misa, mishum dechade begufei v'chade b'mamayne. One punishment is regarding his body, that he loses his life, and another punishment is money, regarding his money, something completely different. So lo yavdina, we're not going to punish a person in two unrelated areas, that he has to lose his life and he has to lose his money as well. But if it's a case where the person is obligated, he has to die, and also lashes, which both of them are punishments in his body, so maybe here I could say that we do give both. Why? The way I view it is, misa arichtehi. It's considered to be like one long punishment, that he dies first with lashes and then he loses his life. So it's considered to be like one punishment. It's not two distinct punishments in two different areas. And therefore he should be getting both of these punishments together. In the reverse, v'yashminon misa malchus, if I would say that the Torah tells you that when there's misa and malchus you do not give both, then I would say that there's an opposite svara. The tarti begufe lo yavdina, to give two punishments to the same body, that you don't do. But when it comes to misa and money, so since one is in his body and one is for his money, so maybe I could say that there's no connection between one punishment and the other. One is in his body, one is in his money, so maybe he gets punished in both of these ways together. So therefore the Torah has to say that we don't do that.
Is not in order to kill him?
In the case of lashes, which is in his body, so in such a case, I would say that because it's all both in his body, so it's too much for one body to handle. It's
would the lashes be incur to the death?
No, it's two separate things. There's lashes, and then afterwards, whatever the misa is, it's done in a different way. Okay, so that explains why you need both of these psukim here.
Kedei Shasai doesn't come in over here?
This is Kedei Shasai. We're talking about the two psukim, Kedei Shasai and V'lo Yiyasai. According to Rab Meir, we're learning out from one that you don't give Misa and Malchus, and from the other one that you don't give Misa and Mamin.
Kedei Shasai for both ways?
No. One, V'lo Yiyasai is Misa and Mamin, and Kedei Shasai is Misa and Malchus. Okay, now the Gemara brings another pasuk, other psukim where we see that when a person's chayiv misa, he doesn't pay. So the Gemara, it says in the Torah, do not accept any payment from a person that's a murderer. He's chayiv misa and he doesn't pay for anything he did. Lamali, what do I need that pasuk? Once I know that he's chayiv misa, so I already learned that from before that he doesn't have to pay anything. So the Gemara answers, what the Torah is saying over here is, or maybe this is read as part of the question. Why does the Torah have to say this pasuk? The answer is, don't take money from him in order to pater him from the chi of misa. It's not saying that after you give him misa, don't make him pay as well. But the point is that if this person's going to say, I'm ready to pay whatever you want for the murder that I did, don't kill me. We don't accept any payment. That's what the Torah is saying here. There's another pasuk which says a similar thing. That a person that killed someone b'sheigig, by accident, don't take any payment from him to exempt him from running away to the Ir Miklat, which is for someone that killed someone b'sheigig. So why does the Torah have to say this? Again, the Gemara is first thinking that means that if he's going to Ir Miklat, he doesn't have to pay as well. So the Gemara says, no, that's not what it means. Do not take any payment from him, v'sifter him in Golus. And he'll be exempt from going to Golus. Why do we need two psukim over here to tell me the same point that a person can't pay his way out of a chiv misa and he can't pay his way out from going to Golus? Says the Gemara, chad b'shegig, chad b'mezid. One is for a case of shegig when it's Golus, and one is for mezid when he's chayiv misa. Utzrichi, and I need both of these psukim to say that you can't pay to be potter from both of these things. Yashmin and mezid, if it would only tell me that you can't pay in a case of a mezid, mishum d'chame esudei. So then I would say that's because this guy is a murderer. He killed someone with mezid. Such a stringent isser that he did, such a severe isser. So in such a case, he can't pay. You killed someone by accident. That's not so terrible. So maybe that doesn't apply. Maybe here, if you pay, you don't go to Golus. In the reverse, I would say, if the Torah would tell me this only regarding Shaygig, I would say, the fact that the Torah does not allow himself to save himself from going to Golus is because it's not so terrible. You're not going to lose your life. Don't pay, you'll go to Golus, and it's not the end of the world. When it comes to somebody that killed someone with Mezid, and here, he's going to lose his life. So maybe here the Torah does give him the option to save himself by paying. So so it doesn't apply, and he could pay to save his life. Tzriche, therefore the Torah had to say here regarding this as well, that you cannot pay to save your life. Now there's another pasuk. It says, a third pasuk where the Torah says that for the land, it will not be forgiven for the blood that was spilled by trying to pay for this. So it seems like there's yet another pasuk that's making the exact same point that you can't pay and be exempt from the misa that you when you are a murderer. Why does the Torah have to say this? That the blood that was spilled you have to kill this person that spilled his blood. So normally, what do I need this pasuk for? So the Gemara explains, this is teaching me something else. What this is needed for is like the Tanya, like what it says in Abraisa. Minayin, from where do I know? Shimnis arfa egla. What happens in a situation of egla arufa, which means you find a dead body outside a city and you have no idea who the murderer is, so you have to bring a calf and you knock off its head, and then the Bezdin comes and says that we do not know who did this, and so on. This is the egla arufa. But now, what happens if after they did this egla arufa, va'achakach nimtza ha'irik, now the murderer is found? So how do you know? Shein Paitrin, I say that he doesn't become potter from the chi of misa that's upon him. You'll say, oh, you already did egla arufa, so now he's potter. So that's what the pasuk is teaching me here. That even after you did the egla arufa, nevertheless, once you find the murderer, he's going to be chayiv his punishment. There's another pasuk where it says, "Va'ato tevayer adam hanoki mikirbecha," that you should clean out the person, the murderer, that spilled this blood over here from amongst you. Lamali, what is the Torah coming to teach me with this pasuk? This is another pasuk that it says there by Egla Rufa, because the Gemara brought up Egla Rufa, so it's explaining another pasuk there in the parasha of Egla Rufa. So the Gemara explains the Tanya. There's a brayse that explains what this pasuk is saying. How do I know that their punishment of death is with sayif? There are 4 different ways that there's a chiyuv misa of bezdin. One of them is with sayif, with a sword. So how do you know that the sword is by the neck? You should clean out the clean blood that's amongst you, and this murderer should be killed. And from here we learn out that we compare this. We compare the way this person that's a murderer, the way he dies, to what's done with the egla arufa, to this calf. Just like there, the head of the animal, the way it's done is from the neck. So too regarding a person that's a murderer, minatzavar. So the sword is by the neck. Now if so, if you're comparing it to the way it's done with this animal, just like there, bekufitz, umimul eiref, it's done with a cleaver, and it's done from the back. Afkan bekufitz umimul eiref, over here as well, when you have to execute a person, it's done also with a cleaver, and it's done from the back. So he says, no, we can't do that to a human being. Amakra, the Torah says, even a yid that fell so low, and he's chayiv misa, nevertheless, you should love another yid, meaning in such a case that he has to be killed with a sword. He's killed with a sharp sword, and also from the front, which cuts the pipes immediately, and he loses his life right away, so he shouldn't have to suffer. There's another pasuk which seems to be telling us that the person that killed someone does not pay to be potter from misa. And the Gemara will explain what this pasuk means. So seemingly this pasuk is saying that a person that wants to dedicate, you want a chedem over here would mean the person that, Ashi says chedem actually refers to a person that is chayiv misa. It says in another pasuk, Zevech lelakim yochram. So this person that's chayiv misa cannot release himself in any way. So seemingly it's saying the same thing like the other pasukim said, that you can't pay if you chayiv misa. Lamali, so what do I need this pasuk for? So the Gemara explains it's actually teaching me something completely different. This pasuk is teaching me what it said in the brayse. How do you know if there's an individual that's being taken out to be executed? Somebody comes and says, Erkoi alai, the value of this individual I take upon myself to give to hektish. So this person is about to die, so he really has no value whatsoever. So when you say this, the value of this person I take upon myself to give to hektish, what happens then? So how do I know what you said is worthless? Because the pasuk here says, min ha'adam. Anytime you want to dedicate, the word chedem also means you want to dedicate a hektish from the value of a adam, lo yipada. So you do not have to redeem this. In other words, you're not going to be obligated to give this to hektish, and it will not become hektish. You would not have to redeem this from hektish. So yachram min adam over here is referring to this case. When is it that if you say that I give the value of somebody to hektish, that you will not have to redeem it in such a case? When a person is about to be killed and he has no value anymore. I would think that this is true regarding a murderer, someone that's chayiv misa, even before the verdict was given. Even then, the person already has no value because you know what the verdict is going to be. The word mins excludes and says not always. A person that's destined to die, not always does he lose his value, only after the verdict. That's according to the opinion in this brayse. But there's another opinion that argues with this. Well, Rab Chananya ben Akavya says, Nerach, even in such a case, when a person is taken out to die, he's already going to be executed. Seemingly he has no value whatsoever. Nevertheless, if someone comes and says, I'm going to give his value to hektish, we have to estimate what his value is, and you do have to pay to hektish. And the reason that Rab Chananya ben Akavya says is, Mipnei Shadama of Ktsuvin. When you come and say that you're giving the value of someone to hektish, how do we evaluate the person? So the Torah in Parshas B'chukaisei says you don't evaluate by the person looking at him, how strong he is, or whatever his qualities are. Every age has a different set value. So that shows that it doesn't go by the actual value that the person has, but it's a certain set value by age. And therefore he says that applies even to a person that's about to die. So according to him, Hai kol chayre mai avidle. When the Torah says kol chayre mir, so this pasuk is not coming to exclude a person that's dedicating the value of this person about to die. So what is this pasuk teaching me? So the Gemara answers, Mi bayel like the Tanya Rabbi Shmuel ben Noish Rabbi Yechanan ben Breikaim. We learned in the Braise, Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yechanan ben Breikaim, said, we find in a situation where a person is chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. What case is a person chayiv misa b'dei shamayim? So Rashi brings a case when a person's ox went and killed somebody. So over there, he's chayiv misa b'dei shamayim for what he allowed his ox to do. So in such a case, how do I know that if he pays for what happened, so then he will be atoned for and he will not be chayiv misa b'dei shamayim? Shenemar im kaifer yushas olav, that if he pays, he accepts this payment, so then he does not chayiv misa b'dei shamayim anymore. Now yochel af b'dei adam came. I would think that I should apply similar and say that when a person is chayiv misa b'dei adam, when you chayiv misa in a bezin, you could also pay and be potter. Talmud Loimar Cheirem min ha'adam lo yipada. That a person which is a cheirem means a person that's chayiv misa b'dei adam, so do not accept any payment from him to pater him. Now, what's the chiddush over here that Rabbi Shmuel ben Noish Rabbi Yechanan ben Breikaim is saying in this brayso? So we had this point before already that you can't pay to pater yourself from misa. So he explains ve'ein li'ela misa is chamurais. Even when a person's chayiv misa b'dei adam, there are different scenarios of misa b'dei adam. There are misas that are more stringent. Shalei nitna, and what are those? Shalei nitna shegegasan lekapara. Those kinds of mises that if you did that same thing accidentally, there's no kapara for it. And Rashi brings an example for this. There are all kinds of mises. Let's say, for example, Rashi brings a person that makes a chabura on a father, a person that kidnaps somebody. There are different examples of misa that if you did it b'sheigig, there's no carbon chatas for this. So that there's no kapara for the sheigig. And then there are misas kalos, shenitna shegasan lekapara minayin. But then there are other misas that are lighter. How do I see that this is a lighter punishment of misa? Because the same thing, if it's done accidentally, there would be a kapara for this. Let's say a person's machal Shabbos, or even a person that serves avodah zarah. When that's done b'shegig, you bring a carbon. So therefore, this is a lighter kind of misa. So what Rashi says over here, what the Gemara is saying is, we see from before already in the Gemara that anytime you chayiv misa, you can't redeem yourself with money to be potter from being killed. However, the Torah doesn't spell out. There are so many cases in the Torah where a person's chayiv misa. The Torah does not spell out exactly which cases of misa it's speaking about. There are some cases of misa that are a lighter chayiv misa, and some cases that are a more severe chayiv misa. How do I know that it includes all? Talmud Loima kol cheirem. Therefore, the Torah here says kol cheirem. Any case a person that's chayiv misa, he cannot redeem himself. Let's just finish the inyan over here. It's another few lines. So the Gemara says, wait a minute, but why do I need a special pasuk from here? V'loi memele miloi sikchu kaifer shamit mina. Can't I automatically learn this out from the pasuk that we already brought before regarding a murderer? V'loi sikchu kaifer, that you can't accept any payment from him. That loi sishko mimayna minei v'tifterei, that you can't take any money from him and pater him. Kol cheirem lamali. What do I need this pasuk of kol cheirem? So Rashi's pshat in this Gemara is, a murderer is also considered to be a category of a chiyuv misa that's actually lighter than other cases. Because by a murderer, if he does it b'shegig, he also have a kapara. He goes into galus. So therefore, this is a kind of chiyuv misa that's similar to those categories of misa where b'shegig there's a carbon chatas. For him, b'shegig there's a chiyuv galus. So if for this kind of chiyuv misa we say that we don't accept a payment, so I already know for even a lighter chiyuv misa there's no accepting payment. Amar Rami Bachame. So Rami Bachame says, not necessarily. By a murderer, there are certain cases where there is no galus and he has no kapara b'shegig. It's terich, so therefore I still need a pasuk. Salkatay techamina, I would think to say, Hanamili hecha dehargay derech aliyah. The halacha by galus is that it depends in the motion of whether the person was going up a ladder or down a ladder, or his hand was in an upward motion or a downward motion, whether the person that he killed accidentally, would he be chayiv to go to Golus. So I would think if you kill someone derech aliyah in an upward motion, shalei nitna shegigasi lekapara. So this is a kind of chiyuv misa that if it was done b'shegig, there is no kapara. So that's a very severe chiyuv misa. Maybe only there you will not be exempt through payment. Aval harge derech yiride, but if you kill someone in a downward motion, the nitna shegigasi lekapara, and there I see that b'shegig there is an atonement, so therefore it's a lighter chiyuv misa, eimen ishkol memayne minei. So maybe over here, a payment of money would be accepted. V'nifterei should be exempt from the chiyuv misa. Kamash malan. That's why we need this additional pasuk of kol chayrim to say that in any circumstance, if a person's chiyuv misa, he cannot pay to be exempt of the chiyuv misa.